This is the Marketing Podcast Network.
Welcome to Uncorking a Story, the podcast that introduces you to the rich world of storytellers who share their personal journeys, creative processes, and the stories behind their stories, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Mike Carlin, and I'm thrilled to be part of your writing journey. If you're an aspiring writer, a literary enthusiast, or simply someone who believes in the transformative power of words, you've come to the right place. Every week, we'll pop the cork on the world of successful storytellers and give you a healthy pour of inspiration, insight, and empowerment. My mission is to help writers like you realize your full potential through the transformative and therapeutic power of writing. Whether you're just starting your literary voyage or looking to refine your craft, I'm here to provide you with the knowledge, inspiration, and encouragement you need to embark on your own storytelling adventure. So, are you ready to uncork your story and let your creativity flow? Uncorking a Story is about to begin. Sit back, relax, and let the transformative magic of storytelling whisk you away. Welcome to Uncorking a Story. Co-authors Mark Ukra and Tara Masalik McMahon are brother and sister and lifelong best friends. Mark is the author of The Ultimate Tea Diet from HarperCollins, and Tara is a Pushcart Prize-nominated poet and award-winning author of Barefoot Up the Mountain from Open Country Press. They're joining me today on Uncorking a Story to chat about their writing careers as well as Closet of Dreams and why we're wearing these hats. Her first co-authored book, Closet of Dreams, is a children's book inspired by their own closet of dreams where they let their imaginations run wild as kids. Welcome to Uncorking a Story, Mark and Tara.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for having us on your show.
Oh, I'm very excited to have you here. And Tara, I'm going to begin with you first to answer the million-dollar question, which is, where does your story as an author begin?
Oh, good question. So, I'd say my story as a author was as a poet in elementary school, actually. And poetry and children's books are fairly similar. So it started there. I love poetry. I will say that I then picked that up in college, but then it took quite a long time before then I became, with my brother, a dedicated children's book author, which happened after becoming a dedicated poet.
All right. Well, let's move over to your brother, Mark. Tell me, where does your story as an author begin?
Probably, well, no, exactly 2003. I had a tea business at the time, and somebody came in and said, you should write a book about everything you're talking about. And lo and behold, I did. And somebody in New York was crazy enough to publish it, and that started my career. And then I would say mid 2015-ish, I asked my sister if she wanted to read something kind of special. And I threw together a few paragraphs about our child fantasy in the closet. And lo and behold, a few years later, here we are with our first book.
Very cool. Well, I do want to talk about that first book, but I want to go back even further and just talk about your childhood together because, in the intro, I read that you were lifelong best friends, which always makes me smile. I have a twin brother. He's been my lifelong best friend, and I do consider our older sister to be a very close friend as well. Where did you both grow up, and how would you characterize your friendship from an early age?
Yeah, well, we grew up thank you for asking. We grew up in the Los Angeles area, and we were inseparable. We're 19 months apart, so we're Irish twins, 18 months. And so we played together all the time. We pretended together all the time. So certainly my brother was my best friend, and he was my hero kind of person. I worshiped him. And we spent a huge amount of time in a closet in the bedroom, my bedroom, in this very small house we grew up in. It was an empty bedroom. I don't know why, didn't need much then. I think that there was some drawers in the room, and we
You had a bed.
I did have a bed. Had a bed. And yeah, and with this entire pretend world, which is the book, evolved there. That was its beginning. So, but we played baseball in the backyard, a small backyard, but it was a baseball stadium, a basketball court there was a garage. It was the football court. There was a danger alley. The balls would go over. It was like the sports metropolis and the animal metropolis of the neighborhood.
Very cool. Mark, what part of Southern California are we talking about?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of LA. I spent a little bit of time in Agora Hills. I lived there for about 6 months up, up, I guess, north of LA. I'll tell you that the commute to downtown LA every day almost killed me, but
it is terrible, and it's worth.
I became intimate friends with the 101. Saw all sorts of interesting things on those morning commutes, like people just eating full meals. Just
It's in the second hall, in
it's
Southern California.
yeah.
How long ago was that?
About 10 years ago. I did about a 6-month stint, and then I came back east for a variety of different reasons. Nothing against LA or Southern California, but some family reasons had me coming back. Well, tell me, Mark, about your child a little bit. Your sister shared, her perspective. How about yours?
Well, my sister was one of the gang, so to speak. So my friends always included my sister. And if they didn't want to include my sister made sure that she was included with my friends. And she also happened to be a lot better baseball, football, and basketball player than the majority of my friends. So it was quite easy. Not better than me, I'll have you know, but definitely an excellent athlete. And I think early on, she probably would have been, if they would have allowed women to participate in sports like they do today, she would have been in Little League and possibly even a football program and definitely a basketball program.
Very cool. I'm thinking we're probably all around the same age. I have a big milestone birthday coming up this year that starts with a 5. And I think during I look at my kids, right? So I've got triplets. They are 22.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And I like to compare and contrast my childhood with theirs. And I mean, look, they had a great dad, so they had a pretty good childhood. But I look at the time period in which I grew up in, and I'm assuming you grew up in too. It was all about pickup games of whatever sport you're playing, a ton of wiffle ball, lots of iced tea for me anyway. But there were no handheld devices. Everything was outside, kind of thing where, parents didn't know where we were. We came home, literally my mother had an old church bell. She would ring in the neighborhood, and when we heard it, it was time for dinner. Can you relate to any of that?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Really, except for the bell.
Yeah.
Although my mother, for some reason, because my name is Tara, called me Tara Bell, so we'd hear her screaming out the back door, "Time for dinner!" And that was when all the kids would scramble back to their own house, usually through the alleyways. And yeah, of course, there were no devices. I mean, we didn't even know of that. There was a couple of channels on the TV in LA up to channel 13. And it was really relationship oriented, face to face. And I'll tell you what, I'm very grateful that we had that kind of untechnology culture growing up.
Yeah. I can add that, I miss the ice cream truck and the melody. I miss the Helms Bakery truck coming by with the donuts and what have you. And our Closet of Dreams is based on that period of time. It is not a current themed children's book. It is based on a much simpler lifestyle.
Well, that's a great segue into Closet of Dreams. So I know it's based on sort of some shared history. But what else can you share about Closet of Dreams, Mark?
Well, for my sister and I, and speaking for us, Closet of Dreams is here. It's in our heart. It's in our soul. It is part of who we are as human beings. It allowed us to have a very happy, wonderful childhood in a make-believe world where our dreams in that closet came true. And to a very large extent, I think it created the foundation for who we are as people today, as adults. I think I was the character of Child, Tara was the Coach Gamma in Gamma, and Hilda, of course, the honorary dachshund in our life as we were growing up, who not basically, she ran our house, and she was upset with our parents. She let them know. And as a result of having those hours and days and weeks in that make-believe land, we were able to expand our horizons, and everything was possible for us, Mike. Everything in life was possible in that closet. And then for me, I took that out into my life, where I then allowed myself to believe that everything would be possible for me outside that closet door also.
That's pretty amazing. It seems like you really did live that. I mean, having being your own boss, running your own business, and then authoring, the T book. It feels like if there's no closet, maybe there's no book, or, there's no closet. Well, certainly there's no book of, Closet of Dreams, but,
Right.
but it does seem like that imaginative play in that environment, like, really did pave the way for you both to accomplish what you have in life. Tara, tell me a little bit about your perspective on the closet, when you were growing up.
Um, it probably was my favorite place growing up, being in there with my brother that I worshiped. The character Gamma, who I played in the closet, was really the character of our grandmother, who we called Graham. And she was our angel. I mean, she just absolutely was heaven on earth. And she embodied unconditional love, and she was funny and fun. And so that world in the closet, our tagline is a true story about a pretend world, was something very sacred, I know, to both of us. We didn't talk to anybody about that closet. That was our secret world. Nobody. Our parents didn't know. They knew we were in there playing. Even our grandmother didn't know. Hilda knew. We assume Hilda the dachshund. In the closet too was brother Ellie, the elephant, who was one of Mark's stuffed animals, and Sister Sue the hippo, who was my stuffed animal, and Clarence the bear, also Mark's. So that was the community that knew about those adventures and that very special place.
Yeah, I remember my brother and I used to have some pretty wild imaginative play where we invented like a whole land that was like under my bed,
Right.
where our
That's so
stuffed
cool.
animals would like go. Like it was like the idea was almost like Toy Story before Toy Story was, probably before the people who wrote Toy Story were ever even born. Um, but I remember those times fondly. And I don't think like our kids, like my kids had some good imaginative play up until probably when they started going to grammar school. And then it kind of just died down. And I don't know if that's socialization or technology or what. But when you don't have other distractions, when you don't have 300 channels and YouTube and TikTok and shorts and all that, you have to make time for some of that stuff. And I think like my kids' generation doesn't really, maybe they can't fully appreciate like what it means to have downtime like that.
Well, you have you're igniting your own imagination, which there may be impulses out in the environment, of course, but you're not turning on a device, and engaging and being entertained. You are creating
Yeah.
your own entertainment. So, anyhow, I know I speak for both of us. We feel so fortunate that we grew up in like I said, that era, and the other part of that closet, just a little different, thing is that the idea was what Gamma always says: when your fears disappear, your dreams appear. And in that closet, we were never afraid. I have no memory of any fear. Sometimes we had wild stories and wild, adventures going on in there. So there was that kind of adrenaline, but not like a fear, that many children have now. Will they fit in, or are they bullied, or, host of other things.
Yeah, it's almost like the ultimate safe space.
Exactly.
Well, that's very well said, Mike.
Exactly.
So, what was the process of putting the book together like? I mean, this is a very, personal. It's a personal story. I mean, it's fiction, but it's based in, your shared experiences. What was the process of putting it like and getting it ready for commercialization and publication and all that?
Well,
You can start.
okay. It turned out to be a very long process, Mike. And
Exactly.
I think it was such a long process, and I speak for myself here, because perhaps neither one of the two of us wanted it to come to an end. We were back in the closet again together, writing, rewriting, editing, hiring and finding this incredible artist to do our illustrations that fit the book so beautifully, and working with her and back and forth, and creating and recreating and adding to the characters that we had in the closet. That I think the project could have been a lot quicker if we were doing something that wasn't such a significant part of our life. But we ended up spending years in the editing process, never rushing, never creating a deadline for ourselves. And the process was very simple. I'd write, she'd edit, she writes. I try to edit. She's a much better writer than I am or will ever be. And I defer to her quite a bit on the writing side, because she really knows what she's doing. And we make a good team that way.
Well, I hear what you're saying about not wanting the process to end, because it's obviously bringing up some very, happy experiences for you and happy memories, but that doesn't mean there can't be a book too, right?
Mm.
In fact, yeah. Good question, or a good point. So there absolutely is book 2. It's a series. I think we set out initially for it to be a series, Mike. So it's the Adventures of Child and Gamma. That's really the name of the series. Closet of Dreams is book 1. And so, book 1 took a long time for so many different reasons. Certainly a big one was including just loving the process. But also there's a lot to learn. I mean, I was a poet. I still am. And, but we had writers groups go through, chapter by chapter, several on, a few iterations of the book too, as well. And, so, the writing part to make for the reader, it to appear like the writing was effortless is really not easy for the writer. It takes a lot of time. Book 2, so we're down a learning curve, and book 2 is going to be out there much more quickly because of that. We're not formula writers, so there's nothing like that. But we're about 3/4 of the way through book 2. So
Very cool.
Yeah, with book 1 kind of working out so well. I mean, we're overwhelmed with the reception of it. So we've been pretty much guided that we really need to be thinking about having a stricter deadline to get book 2 out there, because your readers are going to want it.
Yeah.
Hope they do, but it seems like it's going okay.
What was your path to publishing it? Is this something that you went to the traditional agent publisher route? Did you go a hybrid route? Did you do it independently? What was your decision there?
Yeah, we so we started with going to some agents. We definitely knew we didn't want to submit to, the big name children's publishers and be part of a slush pile, predominantly because from what we heard, it's sitting there for years. So we went to some of the top agents for children's chapter books, middle grade books. And we actually got somewhere with a few of them. It's a really tough, it's just a tough space. So we got somewhere with a few of them, but it was clear that it may or may not actually, though, then be published by Scholastic or whoever else. And it was going to be another number of years. And so we thought, let's explore the hybrid publishing route, which Mark did. And he can talk about that. And we love our publisher and just absolutely love them. We feel unbelievable for us. BookLogic.
BookLogics. Mark, how did you find BookLogics, and what was it like working with them?
BookLogics came to me like a lot of things come to one when things are meant to be, from a friend of mine who published her book. And I know her to be a very serious person about things she does. So I had immediate introduction with them, initialized the first conversations, brought Tara in, and they were our publishers. Maybe we talked to maybe a couple more or something. I don't really recall at this point, but we hired them and they worked out to be beautiful, and everything then just started coming our way.
Yeah.
Very good.
Like the illustrator, the fit, when it happens.
Right.
Hopefully like your significant other in life or whatever, so yeah, we kind of we feel like we're under a lucky star here.
Is there anything else you want to share about the book before I turn the conversation to why we are all wearing these hats?
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
have one thing I think I would want to add is
Sure.
that through the course of writing the book, and we didn't know where it was going to end. We only knew the characters, and we knew the atmosphere of the story. But everything was a surprise for us too, for the most part. And one of the things too that was pointed out by so many of our writing group readers or others, who were helping us along the way, was how much social emotional learning there was in the book without the reader realizing it. But so we did, I think one thing is worth talking about just for a moment, or just saying, is that we had a educator guide and a 50-page workbook of worksheets created. This looks like this. It's just it's free. It's just downloaded on the website. But for teachers, homeschools, libraries, just the reach and the amount of assets in this book, I guess, that are available to the reader, really was very, we were impressed with it. We didn't set out for it. So I'm saying it really wasn't us. It was something that came through us that others recognized. So I just like to say that's part of this book, and it will be part of the series. And we hope. So it's a wonderful resource for, readership out there. And it helps parents, it helps teachers, it helps libraries, it helps counselors, because they're all so overworked, that they have this was created by, a very high level reading teacher. So I just wanted to mention that. And
yeah, thank you. That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, those of you who are watching on YouTube see us in these hats. Those of you who are just listening over your electronic devices that I was bashing earlier, we are wearing hats. These beautiful blue and white hats, LA Dodgers colors, I'd say. That's a pet adoption center on them. So who can share why we are wearing these hats?
Okay.
yeah.
No, go.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, so we don't want to give away the story. But I will say the blue and white might have something to do with the Dodgers, which might be the protagonist baseball team, maybe. But animals are a really big part of the book, Mike. Obviously baseball, grandparent relationships, animals, both what you consider domestic animals like dogs, but large animals. Those 3 animals I mentioned were all adopted from a circus closing down. And so animals being such a big part of the book, the protagonist, nothing giving away, he volunteers at the pet adoption center on Sundays. He goes there with his grandmother, and that's who he lives with. And in any event, there are dogs there available for adoption. And so that's how this name comes about. Now, other things happen that once the readers out there read the book will realize why, of course, that's a no-brainer, that it's a baseball hat in his pet adoption center, but it's also feel good. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, that is wonderful. As a dog person, I'm overjoyed by it. And I know my mother will be as well, because she never met a dog she didn't like.
Well, send her a hat.
You know what? We will send her a hat. That's a good idea. And you like at the moment are presently sitting in a pet adoption center, are you not?
Yes, we are.
Very cool. And I understand there was an event you had yesterday.
Yep.
Can you share?
Well,
I defer to my sister on this because, quite frankly, she took this event by the horns and dragged it into reality, and it was spectacular yesterday. So go ahead.
Well, it was spectacular, but we owe it to the people at our animal shelter, the Animal Protection Society of Friday Harbor, which is absolutely an amazing place. And the work that the love work that the leaders and all the volunteers do here. So together with us, but they did most of it, put together almost like a festival. It was the very first book celebration / pet adoption day. And hundreds from the community came out, and everyone had just such an unbelievable time. We did have quite a few book sales. All of that, of course, proceeds go to the shelter. But the biggest thing was they had so many people adopt pets. And I don't know. For me, that's one of these moments that I feel tears coming to my eyes, where it wasn't set out, but our book, we didn't set out for this, but we may have found not just the love of the book, but the book is also a cause. I mean, there is a chance to bring the book, help sponsor pet adoptions, maybe starting in Washington and California. And if it can have reach, grow this concept where it brings communities in to adopt more pets. And if they want to buy the book, great, or not, it's a wonderful story, the book. Any proceeds would go to that shelter anyway. So we're all right now pretty much just overwhelmed.
Yeah,
with
that's
delight. Yeah.
That's great. A great response, and you're doing great things with this. Not only the teachable lessons from the story, but also what you're be able to do for these pets who are in need of homes. So I think that's wonderful. As we wrap, I do have just a couple of questions I like to throw out just to get to know my guests a little bit more as people. And Mark, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell me what was your favorite TV show when you were a kid?
Oh, goodness. I'm debating between Leave It to Beaver.
That was going to be mine.
Was it?
Okay.
The Rifleman, or I'm going Rifleman.
Rifleman. Okay, why Rifleman?
I always wanted to be a cowboy, ride the horses, have the gun at my side, and all of that my imagination just ran with. But Leave It to Beaver was that perfect family, that kind of had Eddie the bully. And so that was a good one too. I like that one.
Very good. Tara, how about you? What would you say?
I really liked Leave It to Beaver. I will say that was and slightly older, I'd say the Brady Bunch. So,
The Brady Bunch comes up a lot when I
yeah,
ask people this
sure.
question. And
Yeah.
yeah, I get like Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island. Of course, it's depending on the generation of person who I'm talking to. Sometimes people tell me shows I have no idea what they're talking about. I do know all the ones you've mentioned, but was there one Brady, Tara, that you related to more than others?
Uh, the it's a great question, but I really didn't. It was the gestalt of that whole
The
family.
family.
The whole family, blended, and it kind of reminds me of our book, that reach for genuine heartwarmingness, which I guess wouldn't be a reach if it was genuine. So just saying, I felt so good watching that show, like I felt in the closet.
Yeah,
And
very
it,
few shows.
yeah.
I was going to say very few shows out there now where they're just feel good shows. The closest I could point to is probably Ted Lasso.
Oh, good.
But they don't really make show. Now this is old man alert here. They don't make shows like that anymore, though. Like everything's about anti-heroes and violence, and there's not a lot of heartwarming stuff out there. Ted Lasso may be the exception to that, but
I love Ted Lasso.
yeah, I'll give Jason Sudeikis a plug there. Even though I was crying my eyes out during the last episode. Oh God, the Cat Stevens songs got me. Tara, how about music? What did you like listening to growing up?
Hmm. Petula Clark, Downtown.
Ow.
Now I'm really dating myself. Yeah.
How about you, Mark? What did you like listening to?
The Monkees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Monkees. Nothing too hard and on my ears, whether it was singing or the music. I never. Simon and Garfunkel, I loved.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bob Dylan. That sort of genre.
Yeah, I mean, the Monkees were kind of a joke just because of the way that they kind of came about. They were this TV band, but not terrible musicians. I mean, some of the songs are toe tappers, Daydream Believer I could listen to, and
Look
you know,
at you.
it always put a smile. Sure. But look, hey, there's an overlap because Davy Jones was on an episode of the Brady Bunch, so I'll just point that out for it.
I missed one. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And then lastly, Mark, if you can go back in time and whisper some words of advice to the younger Mark, maybe that younger Mark who's getting in the closet, what would you tell your younger self? What kind of advice would you give your younger self?
Keep believing in yourself. And your fears will disappear. And your dreams do appear. It's real.
Beautiful. How about you, Tara? Would you tell the younger Tara?
Yeah. I like what my brother just said very much. Believe in yourself. And maybe I'd add to be so grateful, and also be so grateful for your support systems, and ask for help when you need it.
Mm.
To not be afraid to ask for help either. And I'll tell you, with our book, the power of the community, in writing this book, we didn't write it. I mean, we wrote it. We're the authors on the book, but I cannot tell you how many other writers were involved and helped us. And I think through life too, if you reach out to your support system, that's where I think really, the sky's the limit.
It's okay.
Yeah. And you end up giving too, you're reaching out and asking for something, but you end up able to give so much, and that's the best.
Yeah.
And giving back you are with this book, not only with the subject matter, but of course with the tie-in for the animals who need some homes. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for stopping by, uncorking a story, and letting me uncork yours.
Thank you so much. What a delight you are. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Really wonderful.
Thanks for listening to Uncorking a Story. If you'd like more information about today's guest or to find out more about Mike, go to uncorkingastory.com. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Tune in every week to hear Mike Carlin uncork a new story.